Before I start, I do have to thank you personally for something, because when I was in 6th grade, I saw Dead Alive for the first time, and I want to thank you for the lawnmower scene. I just want to say thank you.
Were you actually legally able to see it?
Not at all.
No.
But that lawnmower scene is
right,
incredible.
Yeah.
It was
like, you know, it's a good use of a lawnmower. God knows I don't wanna, we shouldn't have to cut the grass, but at least we do know if the zombie apocalypse happens, don't throw your lawnmower away.
Yeah.
It may come in handy.
Peter Jackson says that. You know, I am curious about this, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
When the movie starts, we have the aspect ratio of the little box with the black and white footage, and then as we expand out, it's so cool to watch. Do you actually have to fill in more of the frame in order to get the shot to expand to a wide
it's
screen?
the opposite. We have to chop stuff of the bottom and the top. But fortunately, in the First World War, the cameramen used to generally shoot quite wide shots. So a lot of the top and bottom is just, you know, sky and ground. So that's what we clip off the top and bottom, and but you still get so from the left to the right is the actual image. Yeah.
So cool. Now, one thing I love about this is the frame rates. I was reading that back then they would shoot with like 13 frames per second, and you had to somehow get this to 24.
Well, they were shot all over the place. I mean, I was led to believe all my entire life, I thought that silent movie film, which was the cameraman, was basically 16 frames a second. And it wasn't 16 frames a second at all. I mean, we had to restore, you know, hundreds of hours of footage, and we was 10 frames, 12 frames, 13, 14 frames, 15. I mean, if it's 16, maybe if you're lucky, 17, 18. And so we had to figure out what the frame rate was. And then we had to turn that to 24 frames, which the computer does. So
you make new frames, right?
Well, the computer does it. Yeah, I don't even know how it does it. Please don't ask me, as I can't tell you. But somehow it takes the frame before and the frame after, and it creates a whole new frame that then gives you this feeling of a smooth movement once you're back to 24 again.
Now, there's a great shot in the trailer, which I kind of want to break down from a cinematic filmmaking standpoint. It's the moment where they're all standing there, and the guy says, "Hey, we're going to take a picture." And he looks back at the guys, and they're all there.
Right, the guy that says, "Hey, we go. Here it comes. We're in the pictures."
Yeah. So I want to ask you, looking at that scene. So obviously that was originally a black and white,
silence,
no sound, anything. So walk me through real quick, for line by line, the color. How do you color that sequence? Like, what's the first step there?
Well, the color was actually done. We stored the black and white. The color was done by an American company called Stereo D. Fortunately, with a military film like this, you've got a bit of a head start, because I've got a big collection of uniforms, and the uniforms, we know what those colors were.
Yeah.
I drove around the Somme and Flanders and Belgium just completely alone in a rental car about a year ago, for 3 or 4 days, taking photos of the landscapes and the dirt, because I wanted to get the colours of the mud and everything to be accurate to there. So I got a big photo library. Then we have to, but what we're also talking about though is the sound. And your silent movies, you're going to see people talking, and you don't know, And 100 years ago they were saying something, but there was no sound recording. So there are people in the world, I discovered, I didn't know this, who are called forensic lip readers. And I think they do a lot of work for law enforcement. If there's a security camera footage with no sound, so the police can see what the people are saying.
Yeah.
And so we handed this silent footage, First World War footage, over to the forensic lip reading people, who came back with, saying, "Oh, well, this is what this guy says." And so, I mean, I thought, well, I mean, they could make up anything really. Who's going to know? But then we found out. We would then find out what the regiment was, what part of the UK they were from, because obviously accents in Britain vary all over the place. And if you don't get the right accent, the lips don't really work. So then we would get actors from that particular part of the United Kingdom, and we'd get them to say these words that we were told, and we'd fit them together. And you know that they are actually that they are accurate because they fit. Wow. They suddenly see the lips moving, the words fit, and you think, wow, this is actually the real thing. This is what they're saying.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, at the end of the film, we obviously see this great photo of your grandfather. And one of the things I love that you've been saying in regards to this movie is you made this movie and the idea of you wanted to learn what his experience was in World War I. Truly, though, as you sit there and watch the finished product, what do you think you fully learned about what your grandfather went through, and why did you want to kind of experience what he went through?
Well, that was the idea of the film. To some degree, it became about what the average, soldier in the Western Front experienced. It's not about the generals or the politicians or the kings or emperors or the presidents. It's not about any of those people. It's about the average soldier, and of which my grandfather was a very average working class guy. And so, you know, I mean, I dedicated it to him, but also I should say, you know, I think it's sort of in a way it's dedicated to everybody's grandfather or great grandfather or great uncle. You know, it's just, it happens to be I was the guy making the movie, so I got the privilege of being able to put my own grandfather there. But really, it's like this film. I hope is, if you have some member of your family, you know, or ancestor that was in this war, you know, regardless of whatever country they were fighting for, they still ate the same food. They still were in the same mud, still being shelled by the same high explosives. And so this film will give you a sense of what they went through.
One of the things I love about what you did this film is you have the narration is actually done by real audio from real people who were in the war.
Yes, yes.
And I was curious because you're going through hundreds of hours of audio.
Yeah, 600 hours.
So my question is really, at what point do you finally shape your narrative?
At the very end.
Okay.
Because you can't go into it. You can't go into it with a plan. Because the plan requires you to have the perfect pictures and the perfect sound to fulfill your plan, and that would be a mistake to do that. And I didn't want to leave some agenda of mine into it. I just wanted to listen to everything. You watch 100 hours of footage, and let the soldiers tell their story. That's all I tried to do.
And last question for you. One thing I love about you as a filmmaker is, as technology has progressed, you've really been on the forefront of everything you've done. I mentioned Dead Alive. You look at Frighteners, Lord of the Rings, Meet the Feebles, Bad Taste. I mean, it's so cool what you've done. I'm curious about the technology and as a filmmaker, like going back to those earlier movies. How have you progressed as a filmmaker with the technology? And do you think you would still make Dead Alive the same way today? Would you make Lord of the Rings the same way you made it then, or what changed?
Well, Dead Alive was pre-computer, so I'm glad I made it then and not now, because it would be, it's not a CGI film.
Yeah.
I mean, the technology is like, it allows you to be a magician and to, you know, put things on screen that no one knows, you know, no one's ever experienced or seen before. I mean, what I like about this movie is we're using technology to bring 100-year-old footage to life. So when there was a cameraman on the Western Front with a big camera on a tripod, big heavy thing, and he was under shell fire turning, he would have had no idea that 100 years later all these computers were going to try to make that film footage that he was shooting at that exact moment, try to make it look sharp and clear and everything else. So I do love the notion that we are, you know, unlike the Lord of the Rings films or anything else where we're using technology to sort of to make, you know, a piece of entertainment for modern audiences, we're using it to help enhance this guy's film that he was shooting under very dangerous conditions 100 years ago, and I love that. It's a different way to use it, different way for technology. And I'm hoping, what I do hope is that every film archive in the world, and I'm not just First World War, but there's all sorts of wonderfully historical film footage that's just shaky, blurry, black and white, grainy, scratchy. I hope that film archives of the world take note, and there's no reason why other people couldn't do what we're doing, and we could suddenly we could take some time now to actually get all this historical stuff looking really good for the future. I think that's a very good thing to do.
Well, thank you for everything you've done for film. Thank you for doing this, because you have